You're listening to the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring attorney, guest, and former felony prosecutor Eric Faddis.
The road to Alex Murdaugh's murder trial, number 2, continuing to be paved by the woman who was the clerk of court in Colleton County, still technically is right now, Becky Hill. Lots of questions, not a lot of answers from her at this moment in time, or accountability. She has now admitted to plagiarism, though, and there's also new charges or new investigations, I should say, going on by SLED, not only into the possibility of jury tampering in the Alex Murdaugh case, but also improprieties in her own office. Recent allegations coming out that she was taking federal child support funds and using them to pay bonuses in her office between 2021 and 2023. Joining me to discuss, attorney Eric Faddis. Is this what it looks like on the surface? I mean, it's easy to look at this and go, my gosh, she keeps checking boxes of things she shouldn't be checking. And it feels like this is really going to work toward Alex Murdaugh's favor. But jury tampering is the charge here that we're focusing on. Are all of these other things just noise right now? Or could they also affect the outcome of the judge's decision when it goes to the evidentiary hearing later in January?
You know, some of the information about court clerk Becky Hill has raised some eyebrows, no question. But we want to keep in mind, you know, Alex Murdaugh has a fantastic legal team. And after every murder conviction, there's always going to be an appeal and there's going to be grounds alleged. But here we've gotten to the point where the court has granted a hearing. Usually the court will not go as far as to grant a hearing unless they think there is some merit or potential merit to these allegations. And as you said, the information that's coming out regarding plagiarism, regarding these federal funds, and regarding potential jury tampering is beginning to compound. And people are starting to say, gosh, did this guy get a fair trial? And that's really the question the court is trying to decide.
And certainly that is the question. And there's a lot to be looked at there. His attorney saying that they have the sworn affidavits from at least one juror that says, yeah, Becky did say something. The others have said, no, they didn't when being investigated by SLED. It's going to be interesting to see what all is brought up because her credibility is, you know, really on the line here and really, I think, will influence this quite a bit. But we're talking about a hearing. We're talking about a judge making this decision. It's not necessarily the regular rules you would expect of discovery, of the jury, of any of that. Is the judge going to be able to consider these other allegations and factors when making the decision on if Alex Murdaugh should be getting a new trial beyond just the facts and what's been coming out about her allegations of jury tampering?
Yeah, you know, it's a really good question. It's kind of a question for like an evidence nerd. But how it plays out, I think, is that, you know, Murdaugh has made these allegations against Becky Hill. Becky Hill has said, no, that's incorrect. Well, arguably, Becky Hill's credibility, like you said, is on the line because she's saying, hey, this didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So should Murdaugh's attorneys be able to get into these inconsistent statements, these acts of dishonesty, at least according to their team, at the hearing for a new trial? Possibly. And the judge is probably going to err on the side of letting more stuff in than excluding stuff because that judge does not want to be overturned. They want to get it all out on the table. And so I'm guessing that those allegations of deceit on behalf of Becky Hill are going to play a role in this upcoming hearing for a new trial for Alex Murdaugh.
Because it's interesting when you think about a jury trial, you know, it's what's allowed in court that can be considered. This is a judge. She knows all these allegations already. It's not like these are being hidden from her until this hearing takes place. So it's already there in her mind, and she's the one that makes the decision. Whether or not it's actually brought up in the courtroom is a whole other thing, is it not?
It's an important point. One thing I always say, Tony, is like, you know, we can have the rules and we can expect everyone to abide by them, but the people on whom that expectation is placed are human beings. Mm-hmm. Okay. And like you said, there is little doubt that the judiciary in that county is unaware of these allegations against Rebecca Hill. So even if they don't come into the hearing, one has to think, you know, is that playing in the judge's mind? Is it somewhere back there? And could it possibly tip the scales one way or another, even if it's not technically, legalistically admissible. And my jaded opinion is that it could.
Yeah. Well, the defense for Alex Murdaugh saying that Murdaugh does not need to show actual bias on the part of any juror to obtain a new trial. This coming from Murdaugh's defense. Is that fully accurate? What exactly does need to be proven here in an unbiased way for Murdaugh to get a new trial, or what would fall also below that threshold?
Yeah, different jurisdictions handle it differently. But typically what Murdaugh would need to prove to get a new trial in this circumstance is, one, that there was a credible allegation of jury tampering. He probably needs to prove that more likely than not. I imagine the standard was called a preponderance. But I don't think that's the only thing. I'm not sure Murdaugh's team is 100% accurate on the law. I think that Murdaugh would also have to prove substantial prejudice. Usually in Colorado, you have to prove that this bad thing happened, and that but for the bad thing happened, there would have been a different outcome at trial. And so that's a huge burden. I'm not sure the burden's that high in South Carolina, but I think he has to prove substantial prejudice, that it had an impact on that trial, and show the judge how it impacted the trial. And so that may be the element that is really at play at the hearing.
How difficult is that to prove? Because you're talking about basically proving what someone's thoughts were. If these words that were consumed from Becky Hill truly did make an impact. I mean, I guess an individual could say, yes, well, she said this, so of course I voted guilty. I don't think anyone's going to truly say that, but I'm pretty confident we're going to have somebody come in and saying, yeah, Becky did say this aloud to us. Is that alone enough to err on the side of caution and give him a new trial? Because it's quite a lot of caution there, and quite a lot of people that will be affected by a new Alex Murdaugh trial.
It's tough. There are 12 jurors, right, at the trial. And so, just one juror having an impact, a lot of people might say, hey, gosh, that's only, a 12th of an impact on the case. But that's not exactly the best way to look at it, because if even one juror would have disagreed, that could have resulted in a mistrial, which would have been a different outcome than what was had at Murdaugh's trial. And that mistrial would have given Murdaugh another bite at the apple, another chance at freedom. And so is just one juror being influenced enough to tip the scales? Going to depend on what the judge thinks, but I think it certainly might be.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free,
so you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.